Sir, I am Abhilasha Agrawal and
Yeah, yeah,
I am. Hello.
yeah.
Yes,
Abhinav, can
am
you
I
just
audible?
wait for? Yeah, yeah. We'll come to the online audience. We'll just take one from offline, and then we'll come
Okay,
to
okay,
the online.
okay,
Yeah.
sir, okay.
So you can just introduce yourself and
Yeah. Hello everyone. I am Siddharth, first year MA Liberal Arts student. So a potential area that I might want to focus on is something called I friend myself. So social welfare through non-governmental means and local governments. So the background for this is historically temples have been the nerve centers of a society. So an entire human ecosystem or a web of life of sorts would be in a way dependent on it. So in recent post-independence times, so the temple ecosystem has been shackled by various social issues and state legislatures. So it would be kind of interesting and in a way rewarding to explore ways to work around these issues that can potentially lessen the burden on the state to provide and keep sustaining extensive welfare schemes and bring about greater social involvement in the society and mobilize the layman, the public, and maybe in the process usher a positive social change. So, how I would go about doing it? So, while it might not be in a government's interest or agenda to always enact and sustain welfare schemes, which may or may not be sustainable in the long run. So one can look for potentially community-based alternatives. And the one in focus that I want to do is namely Hindu religious institutions, which are the temples. So maybe like start with an affluent institution like the Tirupati Tirumala Devasthanam Board, and study their economic activities, their administrative structure, and so on. So, and try to access their public documents, interviewing board members, trustees, and devotees. So, in doing so, the potential outcomes I'm looking out for are to come up with a local governance framework that can be scaled according to the capacity and the socio-cultural setting of a community. So this framework would not be any religion specific. So it can be applied to any religion, any community in any setting. So that is the potential outcome that I'm looking at. And in a way, this is a decentralized machinery to offer welfare schemes by the people, of the people, for the underprivileged. It would be sustainable because the funds keep coming to the temples or any religious institutions because people keep going there. And so the problem is the in specific case of Hindu religious institutions. So there are some skewered government legislatures in the form of various endowment acts. So that kind of restrict the entire capacity of these religious institutions and their economic activities. So to come up with a potential legislative change in the way the state currently administers these institutions' secular activities and through uh, various means. So and also to come up with a rough working scheme that can address some inter-religion or maybe like the caste issues within the community and enhance local participation in local affairs through active temple administration by the collective. So, yeah.
okay. Thank you. So, is there anyone? I'll come to the discussion part, but is there anyone on the online portal who would like to share their research, what they would like to do? Abhilasha, I think you had raised your.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Good
so you can
afternoon.
share your
Um,
research.
yes, sir. I am working on health communications, like the impact of social media in health communications, and my target group of participants are women's health. I'm basically focusing on women's health issues and how they explore different media channels. Like we all have witnessed during the great pandemic how social media has played a crucial role. So what are the pros and cons of using over excessive dependence on like social media, how misinformation is taken away by the participants. So I will be exploring those things and how we can mitigate the negative impact of social media on women's health especially.
Okay. Thank you, Abhilasha. We can have a round of applause for Abhilasha. Um, so what we heard right now are two very different case studies. One is about, say, moving away from religious institutions into a social welfareism kind of scheme. The other is the adverse impact of the media on say on miscommunication or right. Especially, we've just come out of a pandemic. We are still, I mean, I wouldn't say we've come out, we are still in the midst of it uh, because variants keep coming up, and this is not something that we seem to be, that we will address in this current time phase. Um, One thing that I would like maybe both of you to see, maybe just reflect on, and maybe something, this is an exercise that all of you can also think on. What was what was your challenge? What was your biggest challenge while writing this? You had half an hour to write on this. What were your immediate challenges as you were writing about it? Was it to do with conceptualization? Was it to do with time frame? Was it to do with the scale of your research? What challenges did you face as you were writing this thing? If you can, and it's not just limited to both of you, anyone can, maybe offline or online, can just take it up and say what did you think while you were writing about it? Scale and conceptualization, okay, and narrow down, yes, that's important. How it okay, the outcome part, okay, and choice of the target population, okay, yes, that's important. And so these are, I mean, you can just think of some more. Maybe someone in the online audience, if they face any challenges while they were writing, they can share with us. How to connect it in a cohesive manner. Okay. So scale, cohesion, output, and I think somebody was, what was your narrowing down? Yes, yes. Um, so these are, I think, these are some of the, like, now you just begin to scratch the surface of how complex it actually gets when you start. I mean, when you look at a field or when you look at a situation, you assume that there are certain functions, there are certain structures in through which certain things operate. But when you start in investigating that reality, you see that it's a whole host of forces at the backdrop which are in a way affecting it, which are in a way guiding it. That, I would say, is one of your entry points, apart from the people who will actually guide you into the field itself. This is one point, this is your starting point into observing how complex reality actually is, how complex it can actually get. It's not just unidirectional entity, that there are multiple factors which are affecting it from all corners. So the point of making you write this whole for the last 30 minutes was that even if you don't end up doing this research as part of your master, or if you do, how do you actually begin to conceptualize your research in terms of the narrowing down part is very important, because you ultimately have to go from the macro to the micro. What do I mean by that? You are looking at a larger structural issue, you are looking at a larger structural point. That is the macro level of society. You have to really narrow it down and bring it to a micro level of society. It can be maybe, and the micro part can be either certain part of the certain sections of the community. It can be certain, like what Abhilasha was saying. Abhilasha, if I have to answer your question, if you're looking at health, yes, health is a very large topic, but you have to really narrow it down as to which part of the world would you really like to look at the health issue. It can be, even if it's in India, which part of India, north, east, west, south, even in the regional part, you have to narrow it down to a state, to a district, to a community block. So you have to really, in a way, wilt it down to its end point as to where is it that you, because every, if you're talking of health itself, now health is such an important issue in India. I mean, it's an important issue now worldwide post the pandemic, but each region's response to the pandemic has been different, as if you really look at the health report. So that in a way adds up its own challenge, brings out its own challenges, that what was the regional response to COVID-19? Now, if you look at East India, it can be different from West India. Now, even within East India, maybe you have to narrow down on a particular state or a district or a zilla, where you would like to really look at how did that particular block or how did that particular district respond to this pandemic that was being unleashed at that time. So narrowing down certainly is one of the biggest challenges, in terms of, because since you're moving from the universal to the particular, you had an issue in mind, you had a broader issue in mind, you're moving from that broader issue to a very particular, to a very specific issue which you would like to see. Because I'm saying specific because you don't have the time or the resources to look at very large scale issues. For that, you have maybe the World Health Organization, or you have other such bodies which are looking into that. But your job as a researcher has to be to really narrow down your area of research into a particular, maybe a particular set of community or people. The other thing that I would that the reason why I wanted you to do this um, uh, uh, writing thing was that whatever, it's also a method of decluttering your mind. It is the first step to declutter whatever confusions, doubts, whatever you had in your mind. Writing is the best solution to that. You can, if you're not writing, if you think you can assume a lot of things without writing. Once you start writing, you see that how challenging, how complex, how confounding reality actually is. And once you start writing, it is the first step towards your solution. Dialogues, having a verbal dialogue is another thing. You can that is another aspect altogether. But if you're looking for a solution driven, as someone was asking, what is the solution to it? The solution comes through writing. Once you start writing, this is just your first draft. You will have to write multiple drafts before you even submit your first chapter or your final thesis. That is a task in and of itself. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just saying that you be prepared for the uh, for the future. But I feel that this is where I wanted to sort of maybe end my discussion, to say that now that I've had this conversation with you, we had this discussion. Now I'm leaving the task onto you, that you have to embark upon this on your own individual journey, on your own collective journey as a class, and then you can maybe have a discussion after this session, that what were the challenges that you faced while even beginning to write this simple exercise. Because this can be a starting point. This is not your end point. Don't ever think that what you learned here will be the thing that you will replicate for your master's thesis. It is just your initiation into research process, into the research phase. So I think do you have any more questions, be it the online or the offline audience? If there's any final questions, then I think we can take it, and then we can sort of wrap up the program. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it. Okay.
So as you said, to write is also sometimes it's more easier. But when I was working,
Writing is never easier.
But yeah, I was just coming. So in the methodology part, to write it, I go to the field is very easy. But when I was thinking about how to make the contacts, it is out of curiosity. If you could just share how your journey has been from the starting of the, like, right when you were deciding the topic, you will have to establish contacts to just frame your ideas. So how the journey has.
Okay, so I would say my interest was in urban spaces. I wanted to explore how urbanization has taken place in tribal areas. So that was my interest. That was my starting point for my interest. And I mean, it was a personal interest that I had. I wanted to explore out of curiosity. I wanted to see how has it expanded, grown. What were the challenges that have taken place? What are the changes that have taken place in land holding patterns, in land acquisition? How has it gone about? That was my interest, my starting point. So when I went to the field, I began this field, my research in my MPhil. So in my MPhil, I mean, at that time there was an MPhil. Now they've removed it. So in my MPhil, I looked at Shillong. I was looking at how has land holding patterns changed in Shillong, and now with the coming up of the new capital township in Shillong, I was trying to look at what was the uh, modes and mechanisms through which land was acquired in that area from the agricultural people and given it to the urban people. So when I went there to the field, I was lost. I was confused. I was thinking, okay, now whom do I meet here? So fortunately, I had like one of my teachers had a contact person in the field. She's an activist. She's an NGO person. So she helped me to build contacts to other people. So she was my first point of contact on the field. And when I met her, she gave me contacts of other people. That was my snowballing experience that I began to. From her, I got a contact of a lot of other people. And then slowly, eventually, I met. And from them, I got contact of other people. So this chain cycle continued. Like it's a cycle that you will face once you're in the field. That one person will give you a contact of another person. That person will give you the contact of a third person, and that's how it happened with me also. So you need that one person who will actually help you to anchor you in your research and in your field, and really help you to in a way overcome your hesitations about your field, because you also have hesitations about going to the field, conducting field work, because it's something new for all of us when we started. So it's not something that we are trained to do maybe in school or even here, but it's something that we have to do at some point. So I would say the more time, and that my MPhil was for a year. Like I had to do a year's long of field work there, so that helped me to build a base for my PhD. So my one advantage I had was that I had one full year to conduct fieldwork, which I did not have in my masters. So for my masters, I could not do a full scale ethnographic work, and I didn't even call it ethnographic work for my masters. My masters was more of a primary data collection, so I didn't call it ethnographic. But my MPhil combined with my PhD was more in that ethnographic spirit. So I would say. Since you are in the masters at this stage, just learn how to, this should be a learning phase to pick up your writing skills, your narrowing down skills, and then building contacts. And then later on, once you go to the field, you will find that person. It will, in a way, that's how fieldwork actually works. That you somehow end up meeting the person who will be your entry point person into the field. So that's how. Any other
Participant online has some issue with the connectivity, so email the question.
Okay, I think there's one question from the online participant. amidst pandemic, when the actual access to educational institutions um, is restricted, could one use additional sites, say social media or digital platforms, as part of their ethnographic inquiry? For what is the duration? What is the how can the questions related to its reliability and research ethics be tackled? Okay, now this is a good question. I feel that how much is online sources a reliable tool for field work? Now, if you say like if you're conducting, I'm guessing this is part of a health question. This is part of uh, when you're conducting research in a health sector. um, yes, online media, social media has changed, has transformed our lives. Fundamentally, we go to social media almost when we are going there on an everyday basis to look at all kinds of material. But when it comes to ethnographic inquiry, social media can help you in the first step, that is access. That is, if you're not getting immediate access to your site, it can be as one of your tools to understanding what is actually going on that side. But I wouldn't say that should be your reliance point completely. Like you, at a certain time, maybe after the once the pandemic has ceded, or the severity is not as high as it was, say, last till about a year ago, your personal visit to that site makes a difference, because you will get a first-hand exposure to the site. You will get a first-hand exposure to the place where you actually want to conduct your field work. So I would say, and it's also, we can't say how much of fake news is there on the social media side, because today, as we all know, we are dealing with a huge explosion of fake news from different quarters in not just health, in all aspects of life. So in order to declutter that as well, your fieldwork will also be a part of decluttering misinformation. You in part of decluttering a lot of myths that have been maybe put up on these sites, some of which may be true, some of which may not be true. So your job is to intervene and to see that, okay, what is being told on these sites, or on these social media accounts, is it true or is it not true? That's where your fieldwork will actually come in very handy, because it will be your personal exposure, your personal your in a way an intervention into the field. So I would say that maybe you can take it up. Your social media can be your first step of inquiry. Don't make it your last step. Don't rely on it completely. That should be just a sort of one of your entry points into the field, but don't really um, be dependent on that. So
Any more questions? Online participants, any questions from online participants?
Good morning, sir. My name is Manas Prem.
yeah, hi Manas.
Can you hear? Can you hear me, sir? Okay, okay, fine. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
My question is, my doubt is regarding writing an abstract, or even writing a manuscript. That is, how much is the importance of citation in writing abstracts and manuscripts? Does it is it mandatory to include too much of citations while writing an abstract or manuscript or even a proposal, whatever it is? Is it mandatory to include that much of too much of citation part?
Nice.
Does
There's
that
a difference between.
Okay, sir. Okay, fine.
Sorry. Yeah. See, there's a difference between abstract and manuscript. An abstract can be your introduction. It's just for an abstract, you don't need to have a heavy citation number. Maybe you can have one or two citations. That is enough for your abstract. Manuscript can be your manuscript for your chapter. It can be manuscript for your whole thesis. So that's a different thing altogether. So don't get confused between abstract and manuscript. So abstract is something that maybe you will submit to a conference proceeding, that you would want to participate in a conference. So they will ask for an abstract, and that's what it's the gist of your work. Abstract is the gist of your work. You're in a way accumulating all your work into maybe 8 or 9 sentences. So that is the abstract. And even there, at least for me, I don't really put on citations when I'm submitting an abstract, because I'm in a way just giving the essence of what my work actually is. but an manuscript is something much more huge. It's as I said, it can be the manuscript of a chapter or a full thesis, and I think that's something that you give to your supervisor once you've in a way gone through multiple rounds of your own revision and analysis.
Okay, so
Any
okay,
other
so it's clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from? No? Online participants, any more questions? Yeah.
Okay, then I think I'll end my session here, and thank you so much for being a lovely audience, and even to the online participants, thank you so much for being here. And if there are any more questions, I think they can just email it to me, or they can email to you. You can send it over to me. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Most times I've sent a written this thing.
Sure.
On behalf of the Graduate Research Meet and the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Aashish Khaka for this wonderful and informative session. I would also like to thank all our participants, online as well as offline, who have been supportive and patient over the course of these 3 workshops. I would now invite our student convener, Kuryakos, to present a small token of appreciation to our guest, Dr. Khaka. I hope that these workshops have proven beneficial to the participants. I would request all the online participants to switch on their camera once if they can, so that we can get a group picture. And we are gearing up for the graduate research meet now, and we hope to see all of you there. Thank you once again.
This also.
No, not this, not this. Switch off the mic.
The cameras now. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
This would be